Self.
To sell.
Yeah! Hey everyone, welcome back to Self to Self. My name is Heem, that's Nick, and today we have Lauren LeBarron with us, but she goes by Butter, so we're going to call her Butter.
Hi, how are
Welcome
you guys?
to the podcast. We're
Thanks
good,
for
we're
having
good.
me.
Oh,
So Butter is a second year RGME student, just like I am, and tell us how you got here, all about your background, what'd you do in undergrad.
Say, where'd you go to, literally, where are you from? Where'd you go to high school?
Yeah.
What was when did you fall in love with all that fun stuff?
We're getting very deep. Okay, so I'm originally from Elberton, Georgia. It's a very tiny town in Georgia. We're right on the border of South Carolina. So I went to Elbert County Comprehensive High School, go Blue Devils, whoop whoop. And then I did my undergraduate at University of North Georgia, UNG, up in Dahlonega, where I studied biology, pre-med. I got a minor in chemistry and a minor in leadership. I worked with the chemistry department for 3 years. I did some testing on pig jaws there, feral pig jaws.
Wow.
And then I got an email my senior year. I was looking for a postdoc program or something like that. I got an email telling me about Case Western RGME, and I was really, excited about the entrepreneurship part. I've always kind of had an inkling for stem cells and regenerative medicine, but the entrepreneurship part really sold me on this program, mainly because I want to open up my own practice after I've had a career. So then I applied, and then I decided to come up here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when I first saw that email, because I was the same way. I've told this story on this podcast probably numerous times. People are probably sick of hearing it if they've gotten this far in the videos, right? But I also got that email, and I was like, okay, regenerative medicine sounds pretty cool, but the entrepreneurship part was the cherry on top. You're like, oh, that sounds like a really
It's a
cool
one-of-one
combination.
program. I don't think there's really anything like this.
I don't think there really is either. And what's crazy about Case Western too is there's RGME, but then there's also physics and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
There's a girl in our entrepreneurship class
Diana.
who's physics and entrepreneurship. Yeah, she's that seems awesome.
Wow.
To be engineering and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there's just BME, which is it's biomedical stuff, but then it's also entrepreneurship, but it's more device oriented rather than cell therapies and stuff. And I don't know, I think that it's a super cool opportunity for students, especially like you said you were pre-med. How'd the MCAT go? Did that have anything to do with your decision to come up here?
It did. I wanted to get a kind of a gap year, but I didn't want to just do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine if you do, but I wanted to a filler in there.
So you decided to spend a lot more money.
Yeah, a hell of a lot more money. And so I wanted a better score. I wanted to be more competitive. But looking back, I kind of was I should have just applied.
Yeah.
I
Do you
honestly
think so?
should have just applied. At the time period with COVID and everything, I was I should have just applied. That was a stupid decision.
Yeah.
But I don't regret coming up here and learning all this new information, and I think it will aid me and make me a little bit more competitive, just because of the internship that I'm doing. But I do think it really solidified what I want to do in the future. So
I think medical schools are always looking for people who are different. If you study biology and get a minor in chemistry, I mean that puts you in a pool of probably a million other kids.
Lots of kids.
But if you go get a master's in something cool, in public health, if there are people who go undergrad, get their pre-med stuff, and you do public health, and then go back to medical school, people having master's degrees in medical school being 26, 20, I don't know how old you are, 20,
She's our
you're
age,
23.
dude. She's our
Okay,
age.
so but having a master's degree 23, 24, 25 years old is nothing new.
Yeah.
And being from RGME, I think that's going to be something they're oh, that's really cool from Case Western. I wonder what that is. Let's get that person here for an interview. So I think that this will definitely help you stand out.
I feel if RGME was in a better location, such as Boston or California, we would have had better opportunities. I think Case has cool stuff, but also there's like a little bit lacking of the entrepreneurship part.
It's a hub. It's a medical hub. It's definitely a medical
It
hub.
is.
It's a medical hub, but not a whole.
And it's like a start for entrepreneurship, but they always leave. Which,
I mean, you have to. There's
Yeah.
not, like, I mean, how many VC funds can you name that are here?
absolutely not.
Right.
Yeah.
There's NeoSF, which is like Northeastern Ohio. Like, that's more of like a startup fund.
Right.
You know, there's like pre-seed funding here. There's like, you know, small stuff, maybe some angel investors. But yeah, like you gotta go. You have to go.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then bring it back
Cut you
here.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
But tell us about your internship. Super cool stuff you doing. Like, so regenerative medicine has stem cell, blah 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 blah. So you chose.
I chose more of a surgical internship. I'm working with a doctor who is like paired with Case, but he's also works at the VA. And so he does ENT, which is like ear, nose, and throat. And so he does a lot of like facial stuff, taking cancer out of your neck, like all kinds of crazy stuff, which I had seen surgeries, but I had not seen like face and neck surgeries, which was really eye-opening, honestly, because like you got all them blood vessels in there, you got all that tissue. And currently we're actually kind of tailoring one of our sensors to like help with that reconstruction surgeries. So basically, the sensor we're talking about is it wraps around a blood vessel or an artery or something like that. Right now we're working with two different sensors. One is a stimulator and one is like your regular old sensor, just monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, it would be like a little cuff, basically like a little piece of, for lack of a better word, plasticky substance, wraps around a vessel. And so in a lot of the surgeries where they take a large portion of like cancer or like a mass or something, you leave like a divot or kind of like the area lacking. So they'll take another piece of tissue from another part of your body, you know, stomach, hips, butt, that kind of thing, thighs, and they'll stick it in that area. And so now you have either like a skin flap, which is that skin from that portion of that body on, so that's easy to monitor to make sure that it's retaining blood flow, that you have, you know, all the good stuff going, it's not getting infection, all that kind of stuff. That the tissue's staying alive. So now when you don't have, like when it's buried deeper, they call it buried flap. And so that's when you have tissue like inside, but the skin that's covering it is still from that same area. So there's no real indication on the skin to let you know that that transplant is still like functioning, it still has blood supply, it's still living in the body, that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty big concern. There are some other techniques going around that can do that, but what our sensor is, you, of course, attach blood supply to the tissue when you implant it. And so we're planning to wrap a sensor around it to maintain the flow. It'll monitor flow, and that'll be a buried device, so it'll just be like kind of like a Bluetooth to your phone, and that will send to the doctor.
I was gonna say, like, I have a mass on my neck. You put one of these rings on it after you take it out.
Yeah, so you'll take it out.
So like, you know when people have heart attacks and they have to carry on that little satchel that like always reports back to the cardiologist.
They're a lot smaller now. They're tiny, but this would be completely buried.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it's that same kind of
concept.
It
would be the same concept, yeah.
So okay, so you mentioned the stimulator and the sensor.
Right, so that's the sensor.
So the sensor makes sense. What's the stimulator?
The stimulator is, like, primarily the sensor and the stimulator work kind of for a different cause.
Okay.
So we're targeting hypertension and uncontrollable hypertension particularly, which means basically your blood pressure is, like, always high. You can't get it low no matter, like, medication doesn't work, changing your diet doesn't work, like, nothing is working. So essentially, it sends an electrical impulse, which is like a very, very tiny, you barely can even feel it if you touched your hand right on it. So it's basically wrapped around your carotid artery, which is like right here.
Right.
And so it's wrapped around there. You'll have the stimulator first, and then you'll have the sensor. So the sensor, not only does it measure flow in the buried flap kind of scene, but it can also do blood pressure, which is like the primary reason they developed it.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, when the sensor senses, I guess, for lack of a better word, that your blood pressure is like skyrocketing, your body usually will send its own like electrical impulse, its own signal to decrease your blood pressure. Okay, so when that, in cases like the people we're treating, that doesn't occur. So that electrical impulse, regardless of the reasoning behind why it doesn't occur, it just doesn't happen. So the blood pressure is constantly shot up. That increases your heart rate. That increases like all of these additional problems. So the sensor is wrapped around that same carotid artery. And when your blood pressure skyrockets, it sends little electrical impulses to constrict your carotid artery, right? So when your carotid artery, which is natural in your body naturally does that when your blood pressure shoots up. So it'll constrict your carotid artery, not a lot, it's not like life-threatening or anything like that. But it just constricts that tissue around there, and so that decreases your blood pressure.
Question. I thought that when you decrease the whatever circumference, it forces the blood to move faster, right?
It does a little bit, but when you, like, it forces it to move faster, but then your body, like, it gets to a certain point, your body, like, stops it.
Okay.
So it's basically, like, forcing, before it gets to that heightened awareness and that heightened, like, state. It'll stop it before it gets to, like, life risk.
Whoa.
You know, you have increased heart problems, all of that.
Cool.
My question is in this ring, and like I don't want you to go too deep in detail. Like I don't know what IPs around this you do, so you know, I guess you know what you can and can't say. But like, how is this one? This ring is made out of what? Is it like rubber, plastic? How is this thing able to?
I think it's a silicone polymer.
Is it silicone? Okay, that makes sense.
It's very malleable. Like you can basically crush it with your hands. Like it's mainly it has sensors and stimulation on one side of a flap, and so it's kind of like two hands coming together. This hand right here is connected to wires.
Okay.
And then this hand is basically like sensors, and then this is basically nothing. So it comes around here, right, and you stitch it where my little fingers are, and then you just trim the excess. And
so how does it move? Like how does it move with like? So, like, the electrical stimulation...
Yeah, is it like a physical squeezing?
Or is it
like
the electrical stimulation is causing...
The electrical stimulation causes your body
and that
to
makes more
constrict
sense.
it.
Whoa.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Sorry.
I was like trying to...
The cuff doesn't squeeze yourself.
I was going to say.
Your own body squeezes because of the electrical impulses.
Right.
Damn.
So it's like basically like using your own body's mechanisms to, like, better treat your condition.
So, like... Testing this product, it's always interesting to see like we think of like pacemakers and like you almost have to start in like larger animals, but like what animal models like did they use? Like it might have been before you were in there, because I mean you've only been there for what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
About, right? So what animal, like what's the smallest animal model they've done it on? And then like has it been given to a human for trial yet? Like, do you guys have that clearance, I guess?
So they have done a little bit of human testing, just at the VA whenever, like, there's already a case that they're already going to be in the area. You know, that's all cleared by the physician and by the patient. So they have done a little bit of that, but after they did that initial testing, I'm sure they did, like, lots of testing prior, but they really wanted a chronic study done.
Okay.
So that's why we chose pigs to do, because it's the how can I say this, like basically the blood vessels in their necks are pretty similar, and the vasculature in their necks are pretty similar to us. So that's why they chose that.
So did you guys did they just jump into pigs, or I mean, how could you I guess how can you do this with a mouse? It's got to be really, really or like a rat or a rabbit.
It's really not a good specimen to do it in that. So we kind of did, I guess, jump to pigs. But we did a lot of acute pigs, meaning they tested the pig, but the pig didn't the pig was euthanized after the testing, essentially. And then they wanted to do chronic testing, which means, like, of course, you know, it's put in the pig's alive for several months, and then after continuous testing, all that kind of stuff, everything's, you know, good, then it's euthanized.
How did you guys simulate hypertension in pigs? Like, continually?
You can use a lot of drugs.
I was going to say drugs. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of high-calorie diets, drugs, that kind of thing. It's mainly right now we're trying to see, like, if the pig will tolerate it, like, can we get the measurements we need, that kind of stuff. So it's still, like, kind of in the pilot phase, but we are moving towards, like, more strict study guidelines.
Like post-op, how long does it take for the pigs to, like, recover
Oh,
fully?
super quick.
Quick?
I was actually really surprised. I've grown up surrounded by animals. I've worked with animals basically my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So the learning curve for this type of internship, it wasn't really like a big learning curve for, like, working with animals, that kind of thing. The behind the scenes working, like, coordinating everybody and doing everything and all the paperwork and all of that was a strong learning curve.
You have to do all of that? That's your responsibility?
Yeah, so I basically managed the whole study.
Wow.
That's sweet.
So cool.
That's really cool. So you do, like, what, IRB, ND8?
I do IACOOK, ARC. I work with, you know, all of the vet staff. That's basically ARC.
Right.
Vet staff, vet techs. I coordinate everybody on our side, all the engineers, you know, the doctor. I look after the pigs.
You coordinate with, like, the engineers and the doctors.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It's about 17 people.
Go ahead, Hima. I've asked a lot
No.
of questions already.
I was just going to ask the process of how, like, so when you started your internship, I remember you telling me all about it. That was so cool. So, like, from that responsibility, how did you transition to, like, the responsibilities you have now?
So essentially, I kind of got, I guess, thrown into it a little bit. He asked me first. I came in at the end of their, like, essentially, like, super small human study.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to see a little bit of that, which I thought was super cool. And so after I was in that a little bit, I did behind the scenes stuff, making sure that was all working a little bit. And then he asked me to help with the pig stuff. And I was like, okay, like, for sure, like, you know, this is a great opportunity. I'll take it. And so then he just, like, kept putting more and more on me. And then he was like, do you want to just, like, take over? And I was like, I mean, sure. So, like, it kind of, like, happened over, like, a 3-month span. So as soon as I was done with, like, my internship, I, like, was kind of, like, pushed into the pig stuff.
That's cool.
What a super cool experience. With this experience of doing coordination, like, let's throw the science aside for a second.
Right.
Super cool science, super cool technology. Let's talk about the experience of going through, like, the ARC and getting all of the
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
But would you ever consider, like, you know, like, doing something like a project management?
Oh, after this experience, for sure.
Yeah. Like,
I
how
mean,
cool would that be?
honestly, at first, I was really overwhelmed. I was freaking out. I was messing stuff up. And everybody was like, you're doing a great job. But I was like, I am going to let every single person in this so down. Like,
Yeah.
I was so
like
freaked
paperwork
out.
or what?
Yeah, paperwork. And I didn't know what I was doing. And, like most people don't understand when, like, you're running something like that. It's not just, hey, let's get together on this certain day.
Right.
Let's do a pig. Like, you know,
Let's
like,
do a pig, bro.
yeah, let's just throw a pig on the table. Let's insert it. Like, there is a lot of regulations. Like, you have to make sure everybody's happy, everybody's copacetic. You have to make sure everybody's in the right spot. Everybody has the technology they need. Everybody knows what's going on. So, like, when we do, like, pig surgeries, I'm working, like, 2 to 3 months out.
Right.
To get stuff, like, ready. And I'm still doing stuff, like, days before.
Even supplies, like reagents, everything.
So, like, especially because of COVID, everything, like, medical supplies are so slow to get to us. So, like, if we order something, I know that it's at least going to take a month to get to me.
Wow.
Especially, like, drugs and stuff, it's at least and if they can get it. Some stuff, like, in the beginning of our studies, it's laxed off a little bit that they can get stuff quicker. But especially in the beginning, like, we would be, like bupivacaine. It's basically, you know, like a little drug. But they use it so often, and so we were like, okay, well, you know, it's on our drug list, which has to be all approved. All the paperwork has to be, like, run through so many people, and it's pretty slow to get through. So, like, if you want to, you can't just go in there willy-nilly. Like, it has to be outlined. You have to follow everything to a T. Like, if you go in there and you're like, hey, I want to try something new, you're not getting it done that day.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee you that. Like, you're not getting it done that day. Everything has to be approved. And then if they approve it by this person, it's got to be looked at by this person. Like, it's got to be verified by a vet. Like, all of this stuff, which I like because it keeps everybody safe. It keeps everything, the animals safe. Everybody's, in, like, cohesive, everything like that.
It's also really annoying, though.
It's annoying. It is, because you want to get those results. You want to move forward super quickly. But I can see the reason why it's in place.
Absolutely.
And, like, do they ever say no?
Yes.
They do?
Yeah, so...
They don't just trust you guys?
Well, the thing is, like, you can call, like, if you're having something, like, if you're in the middle of a surgery, and, like, something's going wrong and you need something right then, like, they have the facilities and stuff set up that they can help you. But, like, after that one instance, say you got, like, approved there, then you have to do all the back paperwork, and then you have to do the paperwork to do that same thing in the future. And, like, while you're there, like, in the middle, it has to be approved that minute, too. So, like, you have to, like, talk to, like, the vets and make sure it's okay, make sure that's all good, before you can even implement it just there.
Are you doing this full time?
Yeah, I'd say about 8, 12, 15 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So, I stop in, see pigs, like, 3 to 5 times a week.
Wow. Here at BRB or VA?
At the ARC, which is in the bottom of the BRB.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure.
No,
okay.
yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's where they do, like, all, like, the...
I literally know, like,
mouse
zero
training.
things about, we're right with the mouse, all that stuff. We're off to the, a different portion of it. But I will tell you, I'm not a mouse person. I'm not a rodent person, so I'm really happy we're not doing mice and rodents. But I will tell you, the smell...
Yeah, they're awful.
It's awful. I would much rather be around pigs day in and day out than be around mice. It might just be because I was raised on, like, a farmish vibe, but I don't do mice. That smell, not for me.
Yeah, they're pretty awful. I'm not gonna lie.
He does mice a lot.
Do mice work a lot, and
God
I
bless you.
I work with mice.
It could not be me.
Well, then don't go into the basement of Wolstein because it's all
It's
mice.
awful. It's
all
awful.
mice. So,
what is your schedule? Like, our surgeries, like, 6 a.m.?
Usually I have to get there about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour before everybody else to help knock down the animal and transport it to surgery and make sure everything's good. But it's usually, like, the longest surgery is probably, like, 12, 13 hours from pre-op to post-op.
oh my God.
So I'm there, like, all day. It was funny. The first surgery we did, I didn't know how long it was going to take. So I was telling my parents, I'm like, I'll just let you guys know when we're done. And so I went in and it was like 6:30 in the morning. And then I got out and it was like 7 at night and I was dead. I was like, my feet were hurting. I was on my feet the whole time, like all that kind of crazy stuff. And my mom was freaking out. I think she reached out to you.
She did text me.
She was like, where is she? Like, she's freaking out. And so, like, I popped out of surgery and I was like, what's going on? Why are you worried? And she's like, I was panicking. Like, I hadn't heard from you all day.
That's crazy. So who's cutting?
Yeah.
Are you cutting?
So, yeah, I assist the doctor in surgery.
Okay.
So I'm right there.
Okay.
Dude, that's amazing.
That's insane. How long?
Which is what I wanted to do.
Good.
For real.
So that's what I want to do.
Man, that...
So if you go to med school, you're just going to go surgery, right?
Oh, yes.
Surgery.
I love surgery.
And this was...
Some people think that's a little weird,
Would
but
you do
I'm so in there.
But, like, what kind of surgery would you do? Like, ortho?
Orthopedics.
You would do ortho?
Ortho. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is, but I love, get me a hammer and a screwdriver and I'll give you a hip replacement right now.
Really?
Like I'll bang that sucker out. Let's go.
That's awesome.
I like it so much.
That's crazy. Dang, I remember, this is going to make me sound really bad, and I hope nobody from the ARC watches this.
They probably won't. They're too busy.
But, like, dude, I remember them going over, like, mouse surgery.
A mouse surgery?
And I'm
honestly,
like...
it's so tiny, on such a tiny scale. I'm like,
You gotta like put them on like a little heating pad.
Yeah.
Like, shave their stomachs if you're going.
Let me tell you, you have to do the same thing for a pig.
And
Heating pad, shave their stomach, you have to clean the area. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And you do all that, right?
Yeah.
You have like a team with you?
Yeah.
I learned about that from
it's
mouse.
vet techs, but yeah.
I learned about that for a mouse. I could not imagine doing that for a pig.
How big am I imagine this thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
How big?
so
Like,
when
I
they
hear
first
pig,
got
I think
here,
a potbelly pig.
It's a little less belly, a little more length and width, but
The pig is taller.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a tall pig.
Our pigs come up to like my hip, which I'm 5'6".
Oh wow!
But
Big.
so like maybe 3 feet tall by the hump in their back. So when we first get them, which is against with all the like regulations and everything, you get them, you have to wait 2 weeks before you even do surgery. So pigs grow very quickly. So when we get them, they're like, I think,
Do you get
30
them
or 40 pounds.
Do you get them as like piglets?
Yeah.
Like, technically piglets? No.
Well, they're not a year old.
Okay.
But they're only a couple months old, but they're not like the little baby piglets like you're thinking
Like
of.
little teacup
No,
pigs?
they're like pretty good sized pigs. Like they're probably like 50 pounds.
Okay. Wow.
So it's like a medium sized dog, I would say, with like shorter legs.
Jesus.
So when you first get them, I train them up. So essentially, like, you have to get them familiar with your voices. So it's a lot of like walking in and like speaking to them.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that. That was funny to me. So like when I walk in, I go, "Good morning, girls," and they're like, "Boink, boink, boink." Like,
Aww.
yeah, it's cute. But I'm like, so it's funny. But I did all of that. I did all the back work. So when we get a pig, I have to go check it out, make sure it like is good. It does an intake like exam, make sure they're not sick. And then you have to wait 2 weeks before you can even do a surgery.
Do you name these pigs?
They are named.
I know you don't
I'm
want
not
to
gonna
say
say the
them.
names, but
Does that
they are named.
So my follow-up question is, does
it
that
just
make
makes
it hard?
easier because
It makes it easier
not
to
like
train them.
no, easier to keep count of them because when pigs come, they're numbered, and so there's quite a few pigs in the facility. So if I say like 24, they're gonna be like, who is that?
Yeah.
Like, so that's why they're naming them.
Okay.
It makes it a lot easier to train them. I usually do like noises, like kisses and like clicks, like that kind of thing, to train them. But it's a lot easier like when I walk in and I'm like,
You
"What's
can just
up?"
say their name.
Their name,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hi, how are you?"
Now, does that make it harder when you have to like put them under and eventually when they move
For me
on?
personally, not really, because I'm like, I already know what they're like. I
Yeah,
know they're there for a
purposes.
reason. They are
Yeah.
meat pigs, so if they're not here, they're gonna go on to be processed for food.
Okay.
So I'm like, you're getting a better life here than getting eaten on the table over there. But it happens. Like, it's the industry. Like, I guess I am a little desensitized to it just because I was raised on a farm. Like, that's the
Right.
usual. Like, I was raised like that. Animals are for food. Like, that's the kind of stuff I was raised with. But I have worked with some people in our group who were not raised that way.
And they
they're
get like attached.
oh my gosh. So we've done that, and I'm like, just don't.
I'm that way with
just
dogs. Like, if I was testing on and naming dogs and testing
I don't
on
think I
dogs,
could do dogs.
it'd
I
be
don't.
really hard.
It would be
Because
really
dogs,
hard.
like, because
They get attached.
Dogs
I will
are
tell you,
very
pigs
attached.
do get attached.
And,
They
like,
do.
yeah.
I do have one pig that is obsessed with me. I think that's because I did a lot of post-op care on her. And so they're all females because it's just easier to work with females. You don't have, all the male genitalia, all of that. And you don't have, like, males are technically, like, more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all pigs are kind of aggressive, but, like, the older they get. But it's just easier to work with females, just FYI.
Dang, just somebody who works with mice I just like can't imagine putting myself in that world of like working with pigs.
It's a lot.
So how's the post-op care? Like you said, you get attached. So like, how's the recovery?
So it depends on kind of the animal. We have one pig, and she is great recovery. I mean, like, you'll put her down, she'll get out of surgery. And some pigs, like, it takes a while. It takes a couple hours for them to come out of it. So we're, monitoring them that whole time. And it's really close monitor. I'm telling you, these pigs are not like just your regular like farm pigs. Like the vet comes like once a month maybe.
Right.
No, this is like vet staff 24/7. Like they get checked on like 3 times a day. All of this great care. But post-op, it kind of just depends on how they recover. So she got like kind of a lot of swelling. So usually we do like right here to access the carotid, and then we'll tunnel leads to the back of their neck or kind of the shoulder area, just so they're not like right there, and so they're easily accessible to us. It's not in their way, it's not irritating, that kind of thing. So it's technically like 2, I guess, surgical sites. But some pigs have a lot of swelling, some pigs don't. Like some pigs are just up and at 'em usually like 2-3 hours later. I mean, usually all pigs are like up, they're looking at you, they're walking around, they're eating, that kind of thing, 2 to 3, 4 hours after. The one pig in particular, she was up so quick. Like, usually it's like a little time on the table, like, they're finishing up, we're putting them in jackets, which is basically to protect all our electrodes. They're little cute jackets, I'll tell you. They're little, I don't know who designed them, but whoever chose white for pigs, that was a bad choice. But, I mean, it works. It works, but, like, not a great color, but whatever. So, like, they get their little jackets, and, like, they're starting to wake up, and we were not ready for her to wake up that quickly. Every other pig we had done had taken, like, 2 hours. We got them transported back to the room. Like, they were sitting in their little pens. And, like, then they're like, okay, I guess I'll wake up.
Yeah.
She was up and at 'em.
On the table?
She was waking up on the table. She was moving her little legs. And then they were like, okay, like, we need to increase the speed on this, guys. Because she's, like, really coming out of this very quickly. So we got her in the little, they call it a pig ambulance, but it's a little cart, basically. And so, like, they rolled her over to the room, and, like, they put her in her pen, and she was, like, looking at us. She was like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, give me some food, I'm ready to go.
That's funny.
And so, like, all the other pigs had recovered way slower than her, and so I was like, oh, okay, I won't have to be here that long. But she's a great pig, I'll tell you. She is attached.
I just think about, like, there's some stuff that we'll do with, like, mice, or, like, the vet techs will do with mice, like, for, kind of, like, enrichment, like, when, like, we breed or something.
Yes.
Just, like, for them, like, kind of have something to do, like, there's, like, little logs, and, like, they get little, like, bedding that they can, like, push around and whatever.
They have toys.
I was gonna say, do the pigs have toys
the
and,
pigs
like,
have
stuff?
lots of toys.
Like,
I'll tell
for
you.
enrichment? Yeah, okay.
My favorite pig, which is the one that recovers quickly.
Yes.
She loves a dog bone. Like, not the original, like, dog bone you're thinking of, like a plasticky, rubbery, speckled dog bone. She will pick that thing up and drop it, like, 100 times. She loves playing with that thing. They have little tires in their dog toys. They have, like, this huge apple, like, plastic apple they love kicking around. They have traffic cones in there. They have balls.
Wow.
They just have a ball all day.
Do they live, like, in separate pens?
They do. So they get interaction. So pig are social animals.
Right.
So in parts of the cages, like, of course they're, like, open. They're in the same room. It's actually really funny. You can't have just one pig by itself because it'll get depressed.
Right.
And it'll have a really bad time. It'll make us have a bad time. Them have a bad time.
Right.
It's bad. So they're always with another pig in the same room. So they have section of the pens that are, like, see-through, and they have, like, rungs at the bottom so they can, like, touch noses and, like, talk to each other and, like, scream at each other.
Yeah.
And, like, it's, like, they can definitely, like, there's some talking going on, especially, like, when we're testing. They'll be, like, especially if we roll up, like, between, like, front-to-front cages, they'll be like, what are you doing? And like you can definitely tell, like, she'll just get situated and, like, we'll be testing. Like, they're not feeling anything. And so, like, we'll be testing, and then the other pig will be like, what is she doing? Like, is that special? Like, can I do that next? Like,
oh my god.
It's funny to me. Like, they
Sounds
just,
like
like,
I need to
talk
go
to
meet some of these pigs, man.
Okay, I have a question actually for you, because when you do mice stuff, there's, like, a standard, like, gene stuff to them, and, like, all the mice are, like, some gene knockout, so they're all kind of similar, right?
Yeah.
For pigs, like, the way you're describing it, it seems like, do you guys do gene studies and all that stuff to make sure they're...
You technically can, but it's not really what they're for.
And it's so incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Like, knockout mice, like, for 10 of them, are crazy, crazy, crazy expensive.
Just for 10 mice?
Like, I mean, maybe just... I mean, the amount
I think they're,
for
like,
one
$400 a pop
it's,
for a mouse.
It's ridiculous.
Depending on, like, the genes you want.
It's
they're
ridiculous.
Expensive.
Like, we work with aged mice. Before, I think now we have, like, a deal with the NIH, and they just send us aged mice, I think. I don't know, don't quote me. But we used to pay a lot of money for those aged mice.
No
and we would
way.
have to bleed them.
Yeah.
So we do mandibular bleeding. And, like, they're hard. Like, they're hard to, like, find because some of them are really skinny and some of them are really fat. So, like, you never know how
It's
hard to peg with the
different.
lancet.
Everyone, yeah.
And, like, some of them would die and it would be, like, $350 a mouse.
Down the
like,
drain.
just down the
So
drain.
then with your device, how can you tell patient to patient,
So,
like, how it works?
So essentially, they're all basically the same, like device implantation. You know, like they keep them like pretty much the same.
Is the
but
stimulation like amount same too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of that has
It's all
to be
standard.
like
It's all
standard and
right.
regulated and everything like that.
Right.
And so they just do the same series of tests over and over on different pigs, essentially.
That's insane.
And then the variability
That's so
between.
cool.
Okay, cool.
How often? What's the follow-up testing regime? How, like, for this chronic study, you know, you're going in, you're spending time with these animals, these pigs. How often are you like recording data, or is this Bluetooth device just streamlined to a
So
computer?
this one is not the Bluetooth device.
Okay.
This one is just the end of leads, and then we connect our device to it. So it's basically a housing type thing, which basically is like
How do you
really
connect the
dumbed
device?
down. It's just like
It's like a magnet.
no, it's kind of like an outlet, honestly.
You just like plug it in.
Yeah, so you
So
just,
is there like
plug
a
it in.
cord out the back of their
Yeah.
neck? Oh,
So it's a cord out the back of your neck.
that's kind of hilarious. Imagine walking in and seeing
Essentially, it's a cord out the back
17
of your
pigs with cords like, "Hey guys," and they just like look up and it's like white things.
Well,
like
it's all covered. It's all covered.
Is it all covered?
It has to be all
It has
covered.
to
The
be
one
covered.
thing about pigs is, well, all large animals, horses, pigs, cows,
Mhm.
everything, if something touches their skin, it's a natural response to get it off. Because I
Yeah.
think it's flies,
Oh.
bugs, insects, that kind of thing, which they don't really want on them.
Right.
So pigs will actually take their hind limbs and scratch like a dog a little
I
bit.
was gonna say like a dog.
Yeah, and so their hoofs are so like, I guess, pointy and like
Mhm.
the way they're shaped.
That it'll just cut through.
They'll cut through anything.
Wow.
So it's all covered. That's why they have their little jackets on.
Okay.
And
all
so
right,
like
all
stuff
right.
like that. It covers all, it protects all of your electrodes.
That makes sense.
Not only for fashion.
Not only look
There,
amazing.
we did get a teal T-shirt, and she was rocking it for
There-
like a couple days.
There we
she was
go.
rocking it.
Man,
Oh my god.
that's really cool.
It was
though,
cute. It was like a
how-
little turtleneck action. It was real cute.
So.
You guys write papers?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
everything's written up. All the data is logged. Everything like that. It's a little
Is
crazy.
it good data? Like you guys like is the lab and like the project team like are you guys happy with what you're doing?
I think yes. I think so. I think we're getting the results we want. But they do want to do some different type of testing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
With the next round of pigs, just to like kind of like hone, I guess, the results that they're looking for and like better, I guess, environment to achieve that. So they're like kind of like testing out like certain different stuff with this one because it is like the pilot of like getting everything ready, seeing how everything goes before they really like, you know,
Go hard for
Yeah.
humans.
right.
That's so super.
You know, for people who don't want to do stem cells or don't want to do gene therapy,
This is
this is the
something you can
perfect
absolutely
solution
Right.
for them because it's not like crossing any boundaries that might have moral or ethical concerns for them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is super cool. And do you think it's gonna be like reimbursed maybe in the future if like it's like approved?
I think so. They are working on a little bit of the technology in other countries for
Mhm.
human testing, and they're doing a little bit of chronic testing in other countries. But I think they're moving their way up to, you know, testing in the U.S. and doing all that kind of stuff.
Ooh,
Yeah, so cool. I am very impressed.
for real.
I really am. I knew you were doing this stuff with like the pigs, but I didn't realize like
It goes that deep.
how deep it was
It's a
really
lot.
going,
It's
which
a
is
lot.
great. And I think that if you want to go back to medical school and become an ortho surgeon, I think that this is just like awesome. Like if this was a med school interview and they asked you
Oh.
about your research and you went
Oh.
through that, you would like blow their socks off. Some people were like,
Seriously.
I worked in a lab and did cell cultures.
Yeah.
Like, cool, bud.
It's
Like
definitely
what?
not that.
Like what? Like okay, what?
I will say.
The technology you're working on right now will impact somebody in the next 20 years.
Definitely.
And that's
Yeah.
that is so cool to be a part of that, to where you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be doing surgery, and you're going to look at one of your nurses and you're going to be like, hey, you see that thing on the news today? Yeah, I worked on that. Like, that
20
was
years
my
ago.
20 years
Yeah.
ago. Case, like,
My name's on all the papers.
now that it's in 100,000 people, I worked on that.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
And it's
like,
working good, guys. It's working good.
And so, like, just, I'm so impressed and
Yeah. What about Case Med School? What do you think?
yeah.
Would you
Would you stay at Case? Do
Yeah.
I
like,
would.
what if you did like an MD PhD? You stuck with this.
I have thought about that.
That
I
would
have
be really
thought about
cool.
doing that. But I don't know. I think my main plan right now is to take about a year off
Okay.
and get my stuff together.
Are you gonna stay in the lab?
No.
No?
No.
Going
I'm
home?
moving back to Georgia.
Are you going
Really?
home?
I'm going back to Georgia. I love the experience.
Too cold up here.
It's not. I like winter. I am a winter girly. I love it.
Crazy.
It's too many people here. I am used
Really?
to small towns. I mean, we got about 1 million people right around here, and I'm like, too many.
Seriously?
We got like 20K in my town, so like everybody knows everybody.
Cleveland's
that kind of vibe.
385,000 people as of 2021.
So like walking down the street here and there, you think
We
it's
don't.
too
My
much?
thing is, it's so crazy between living in a small town and then moving to a really big town. Like I wanted that experience. I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to kick it, that kind of thing. Great experience. 2 years, great. I wouldn't trade it. But from where I'm from, we don't like people don't walk down the sidewalk. Like everybody drives. Like we don't like. I live like 13, 15 miles from town.
Really?
So, like, we're out there. Like, nobody's, like, just willy-nilly groups of people just walking down the road. Like, if you see that, like, it might be 6 a.m. They're running.
Right.
But it's not like...
So, like, hey, they're going to Chipotle for lunch.
Yeah, we don't even have a Chipotle, so...
You don't have Chipotle?
No.
How do you guys survive?
We don't even... We have a bunch of restaurants. Mainly, like, little Mexican cuisines.
Gotcha.
But we don't really have, like, big chains.
So as someone who has gone from a small town, come to Cleveland, gotten the experience in the RGM program, would you recommend this to younger butter? Would you say do this?
I think so, yeah.
Or someone who might be in your shoes?
I think so. I wanted more, like, when I came here, I was really into the lab scene. Like, I came straight from, UNG undergrad, and I did a lot of work with the chemistry lab. We did stem cell stuff, a little bit in biology, a little bit of, like, cell cultures, that kind of thing. But I was mainly, like, using instruments in the lab, like spectrophotometer, like all the big, huge instruments, gas chromatography, that kind of thing. That was really my scene in undergrad. And so coming here, I was like, okay, I'll just continue it, but kind of switch more to the biology. But then, like, I got this internship, and I'm doing what I kind of want to do in the future, which just kind of, like, solidified what I want to do. Because at first, I was like, the first surgery I went in with this doctor I'm working with, I was gassing myself out. I was like, okay, you better go in there and you better show up. Like, you better do what you do. You better have your stuff together. You better not freak out seeing this guy's, like, skull and, like, all that kind of stuff, and seeing his, like, mandible, like, ripped out, seeing his face flop forward. Like, you better, like, keep your stuff together. And so I walked in, and the Dr. Morgan was so good. So good with patients, so good with everybody. He makes sure, like, he doesn't just engage you, like, he makes sure you're really understanding. So, like, he's basically, like, the chief of ENTP. And so, not ENTP, but ENT, over at the VA. And so he's, like, working with residents, and he has people under him and stuff like that. And so working with them to go to surgeries, like, it was a whole experience. And, like, that just solidified what I want to do in the future.
That's awesome.
So I don't think I would give up this experience, and I definitely would have recommended it for younger butter. I would have been like, hey, sis, you need this. Because, like, I think going straight into medical school, I think it would have been fine just because I have been in the medical scene and I've done other stuff. But I think this really set me up better. And so it wasn't just like, yeah, I'll go get a master's degree, whatever. That was just kind of the attitude I went in with it. I was like, whatever, we'll just go get a master's degree. Like, I'll keep prolonging my education, but, like, do I really need it? But I do think it helped me. I do think it set me up better, and I'm in a better standing, and it, like, solidified what I want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool.
That's awesome.
What's your nearest medical school next to hometown? UNG?
Jeez. UNG is not a medical school.
They don't have a medical school?
No.
Okay.
I was gonna say like
Atlanta?
Georgia.
Yeah, I think it's Atlanta.
Atlanta?
About 3 hours from my house.
What about over in South Carolina?
Yeah,
They don't have anything in South Carolina.
There is one in South Carolina that I think is still like 2.5, 3 hours from my house.
Jeez.
But for me, with everything that far away, I'm
that's
that's pretty much average.
What's the drive from Cleveland to home?
Oh, the drive to here,
9.
we did in about 12 hours, I think.
12.
I mean, albeit we were going with my mom and my dad, so there was multiple bathroom breaks.
Right.
The girlies had to, tinkle, and we had lots of stops for food. But yeah, we did it in about 12 hours,
12.
I think.
Dang. I'm trying to think. It's like from my house in Kentucky to Florida, it's like 12.
We could have Florida in like 5 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no.
Exactly.
Can't relate.
And we're at the very tip top of Kentucky and we have to go all the way through Tennessee.
We're like at the tip top of Georgia. But
right. We got Tennessee through Kentucky and Tennessee. It's 5-6 hours. So, yeah. Drive to Nashville from my house.
We did that in like 3 hours.
5 hours from my house.
We were
It's
Zooming.
crazy.
And we were already 2 hours from my house. We were at UNG. We went up to Nashville for one of my friend's birthdays. And 10 out of 10, recommend. It was so
Nashville's
fun.
great.
But we did that. They drove. I was like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And I think we did that in 3.5 hours.
Jeez. That's cooking. All right. Well, this was great.
Yeah.
Thank you, seriously, for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me.
It was great to have, like, I don't know. I think it's gonna have to start becoming like we're just gonna have to have every RGME student on just to get everybody's like experience and opinions because like yours is so different.
You're doing the most different thing that we've
Yeah,
than like what Dabby's doing from what
Yeah.
I'm doing or what
Yeah.
Heem's doing. Like
Yeah.
It's
we gotta
funny.
talk about your stuff on this podcast
Yeah, we will,
because
we
that's what you're doing is really cool. But no, thank you very much for coming on, Butter. It was great. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun. I liked it.
Learning about pigs was so much fun today. I did not expect to learn that.
Dude,
much
so
about
many
pigs.
little details you don't really think about.
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
learn
you don't
about
think
from
about
the
it.
things you did.
So, all right. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else for today?
That's all. Yeah, that's
all right.
fine.
Well, we want to thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, we appreciate you guys. We want to again thank Butter for coming on. And yeah, this has been another episode of Self to Self. I'm Nick. That's Heem, and that's Butter. We'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.